بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
سب جڑ جائے گا زہرا کا مکان عصر کے بعد. سب جڑ جائے گا زہرا کا مکان عصر کے بعد. ہوگا شبیر کے خیموں میں دھواں عصر کے بعد. ہوگا شبیر کے خیموں میں دھواں عصر کے بعد. ارے صبح عاشور تو دے دی علی اکبر نے اذان. صبح عاشور تو دے دی علی اکبر نے اذان. کون دے گا بھلا مغرب کی اذان عصر کے بعد. کم سے کم ہے ابھی بیمار کا بستر باقی. کم سے کم ہے ابھی بیمار کا بستر باقی. ورنہ تقدیر میں آرام کہاں عصر کے بعد. اور اے سکینہ تیرے کانوں سے لہو ٹپکے گا. اے سکینہ تیرے کانوں سے لہو ٹپکے گا. ہوں گے چہرے پہ تماچوں کے نشان عصر کے بعد. اور کون معصوم سکینہ پہ ترس کھائے گا. کون معصوم سکینہ پہ ترس کھائے گا. کون سمجھے گا یتیمی کی زبان عصر کے بعد. لاش عباس کی دریا پہ تڑپ جائے گی. لاش عباس کی دریا پہ تڑپ جائے گی. جب بھی اٹھے گی سکینہ کی فغاں عصر کے بعد اے خدا اے خدا اے خدا اے خدا سید سجاد کو دے تو ضبط اے خدا سید سجاد کو دے تو ضبط ہوگا شبیر کا سر اور سینہ عصر کے بعد اپنا دل کیسے سنبھالے گی علی کی بیٹی اپنا دل کیسے سنبھالے گی علی کی بیٹی اپنا دل کیسے سنبھالے گی علی کی بیٹی رن میں روئے گی جو شبیر رن میں روئے گی جو شبیر کی ماں عصر کے بعد رن میں روئے گی جو شبیر کی ماں عصر کے بعد روک لو اپنا قلم چوم کے رکھ دو نیر کیسے لکھو گے غموں کا یہ بیان عصر کے بعد ہوگا شبیر کے خیموں میں دھواں عصر کے بعد سلام
جزاک اللہ محمد
Please recite Surah Fatiha for all the marhumin here, all of our marhumin, and especially those who are not enough in this world to recite Fatiha for them. Fatiha. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبو القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لعن الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتبارك وتعالى في كتابه المبين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. صلوات محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
In our religion, three things are really stressed. And we find this in so many different recurring areas of our history. And obviously knowledge, the rituals of our religion are very important, but just as important as that, if not more important in some cases, is akhlaq, how you treat other individuals. The way in which you go about talking with other people, the way you behave with other individuals, the way you treat those younger than you, the way you treat those older than you. We always talk about how great of an example our Holy Prophet was. Right? This was a man who, he had a hard time sleeping if his neighbors were hungry. He had a hard time, dealing with individuals. He had a hard time being a Muslim if his other Muslims were in pain. We have so many of his hadiths that tell us to treat others with kindness, whether they are of our religion or not. And it's a shame when us Muslims that claim to follow this Prophet so closely, that claim to follow this individual's family so closely, eventually come to moments where we're not able to live up to that message. We see that the Prophet's character never wavered. No matter how other people around him are acting, his character always remains steadfast. That famous story that we always talk about, where the Prophet would walk through the streets of Mecca, and this lady would throw trash from her window at him every day. It was like clockwork. He would walk through the streets, and this lady would throw trash. She'd be waiting for him. And one day she didn't throw it. And we see this story all the time. But what did the Prophet do? And there's a difference between her character and his character. What he did was he went and visited the woman and found out that she was sick. And he said, if you need anything, I'm here to help you. If you are sick, I can come and get you medicine. If you need food, I can come and get you food. If you need any sort of provisions for your household, I'm more than happy to provide. But we see that in this case, the best way to attract others toward our religion, the best way to show that we are steadfast in our own values, is to demonstrate them on the daily. And it's a very important thing to do. As soon as the Prophet came and acted this way, the woman converted to Islam. That's not to say that every action that we do is to bring others to our faith. But if we do claim to follow this individual, this role model for all, then we have to make sure that we are embodying his values. We are doing things that are Muhammadi, not anything other than that. And I'll be the first to say that our culture, this Desi culture, has a lot of great things in it. But it's unfortunate that some aspects of it are not Islamic. And we know that, right? The way we treat our guests, the way we treat our parents, the way we treat our teachers, it's incredible, really. I don't think you'll find it anywhere. Especially as, a first generation individual growing up in the West, you see that the way that other people are raised to treat other people, to treat those older than them, to treat their teachers, their parents, whatever the case might be, it's very different from the way that we were raised. And yes, part of that is Islamic, but the way that we execute that Islamic ritual and that Islamic principle is through our culture and the way we talk to these people, the way we treat them, the type of upbringing that we have, and that's fantastic. But certain things, they're really diseases within our culture, and we need to address them, especially as younger people going into the future. Now, one thing that I think comes to mind when we talk about this idea of ghibah, right, backbiting. And I know we've heard this so many times before, in every majlis, whether it's Ramadan, Muharram, it's not a topic that isn't talked about quite in depth. And inshallah, I'll talk a little bit about what I've seen in my reading. I'm not an expert by any means, but inshallah, we can all go home with some sort of understanding of it. Now, the idea of ghibah, it's even in the Quran, it's very strangely stated. It says, don't talk ill of other people. Do any of you want to eat the dead flesh of your brother? Right, it's a very strange thing to say. They talk about those who don't pray, they talk about those who don't fast, they talk about, all these different types of sins within the Quran. But I don't think any one of them is described as strangely. Why would Allah talk about this basically cannibalism, right? You're eating the dead flesh, the flesh of your dead brother. And it's a very strange thing, right? But the idea is that one of the key principles of Islam is to maintain the unity of the Muslim Ummah. It's to maintain the respect of your brother, right? You should be a united front. If you yourself are tearing down your brother when he is not around, if you yourself are tearing down your sister when they are not around, then who are you to call yourself a mu'min, right? It's a very dangerous and slippery slope, right? When you think about how the way it's presented, if you're eating, it's the flesh of your dead brother. Dead meaning they're not around to defend themselves. They're not in a situation where they can advocate for themselves. You know, they can say, hey, you're doing some basic to me, you're saying something incorrect about me, I want to rectify this. Right? We can't be the ones to propagate those kinds of ideas. It's very clearly stated in the Quran. You know, where and in our hadith where, you know, your good a'mal disappear and you take on the sins of another individual. Just for words. You know, you're not hurting anybody, you're not killing anybody. You're not physically harming somebody, you're not stealing something from them. But what you're doing is you're damaging their honor, right? And that is something that is invaluable. You can't put a price on somebody's honor, you can't put a price on somebody's respect. Because if you say something, and let's say the individual that you're talking with, their perception changes. The next time they see that individual you're talking about, and they say, oh, this was the person that my friend had told me about. Their perception of that person has changed, and you're the one responsible. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this such a crime. You know, it's not something to be taken serious, to be taken lightly. You have to take it seriously. Imam Ali says that the tongue's weight. It's very unique in the way that it's presented to us, right? The sins of your tongue. Imam Ali alayhi salam says that the tongue's weight is light. It's not a heavy organ in the body, but the sins that it produces are heavy. And it's a very, very scary topic. You know, we look at even Recite al-Huquq, right? Where Imam Zain al-Abidin goes through each part of the body and lists its rights, right? But he starts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The right of God is X, Y, and Z. Then he starts, the right of yourself is X, Y, and Z. What's right after that? The right of your tongue. Right? He says that it is an organ which, you know, it's too noble for you. That Allah has given you this ability to speak with other people. He's given you this ability to communicate with your brethren. And you want to bring it down to the level of sin. You want to bring it down to the level where you are hurting other individuals. You are hurting those who you claim to be brothers and sisters with. And that's not correct. You know, what's the point of you or I doing all this amal if we end up just wasting it away because we have damaged the honor of another person? What's the point of us coming and doing azah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam if, you know, we do the amal, we do the Majalis, we talk about the great sacrifice of Imam Hussain, but if after that, maybe while we're eating, maybe on the drive home, we start taking the side of his oppressors. Right? It's a real disease in our community. That's how it's been addressed by our ulama and by the A'immah. It's a disease of the soul. You know, very, very few sins are called diseases of the soul, because that's how damaging they are to not only the people that we're talking about, but to ourselves as well, right? If you're losing all of your good amal and you're gaining the sins of another person, that's a very huge punishment on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, the Prophet says that there is no fire that consumes dry wood like riba does to the amal of a mu'min. Again, you can see that this is stressed so much to be unified, a unified front. Because we see that there are so many forces in this world, and even back then until today, that are trying to tear Muslims apart. Right? But we cannot be among those individuals that do that kind of job for them, right? If we claim to be, you know, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Ali Waliullah, if we claim to be part of that Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib, we cannot be among those that are creating divisions amongst one another. Because we've done the job of those oppressors for them. And that's not correct either. You know, we can't say things like, you know, someone is either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity if it just becomes a slogan. Right? If we don't act upon it, if we don't take that to heart, if we don't truly advocate for other people when they're not there, then they're just slogans that we've taken. They're just things that we print on T-shirts. They're just things that we share on social media. If you don't take it to heart, then there's no point. The idea is that you wouldn't want someone doing it to you. Right? I think that's a lot of the time the best way to kind of frame it. Right? If let's say you run around and somebody is talking about your faults, and we all have faults. No individual here is perfect. We wouldn't want that either, right? We would want the opportunity to talk out an issue if there is one that exists. We would want the opportunity to make sure that our honor, our respect is not damaged, and that's something that's very clearly stated in our religion. But what I wanted to do is let's talk about 3 different points that I think are important to understand based on the writings and the sayings of our 14 Masumeen, and maybe we can go home with a better understanding, and inshallah it's like a homework assignment for everybody. I want us all to become better at not doing riba, and I think it's something that will strengthen our community over time. But the point number 1 is to keep track of what the topics of conversation usually are amongst you and your friends. Are you talking mostly about worldly issues? Are you talking about maybe your job or work? Or are you talking about other people? So easy it is to kind of find common ground and attack one person when they're not there. We think it's a way of building connections between ourselves, and it's not. Because you're damaging connection with somebody else in the process. And that's a net negative. Right? We see that, it's not just what you say, but it's what you talk about, what you're seeing yourself gravitate towards. And it's important to understand that we should have to think before we speak in these situations. If you're noticing that most of your topics are concerning another person, right? And you're talking about somebody else's deeds, somebody else's actions, somebody said this, X person said this, Y person did this, then maybe it's time to sort of start shifting away from that. The Prophet says something beautiful. He says that the tongue of the moment is behind his heart. You should think, you should have this type of mercy in your heart for other individuals. Yeah, we're all imperfect, but it's upon you also to conceal that imperfection from others, right? It's not your responsibility to go and expose everybody's wrongdoing, right? You have to make sure to have that same kind of mercy that the Prophet has in his heart for even that woman that threw trash at him, right? If we can't have that level of mercy for our own brothers and sisters, then who are we? How can we even associate ourselves with this man who would have such mercy on the person that would attack him, yell curses at him, if we can't even advocate for those who we claim to be our brothers and sisters? Now, the next important thing is to practice the praise of others. If you're talking about somebody already, why do you immediately gravitate toward the negative, right? Why don't we talk about the praise? I think we can all, the beauty of being created so diverse is that we all have not just flaws, but we all have these strengths, that we can all aspire to. Maybe somebody is a really good cook. Maybe somebody does a lot of work for the Majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And we can praise them instead of going back and breaking people down constantly. Again, if you go back to Recite al-Huquq, the beauty of what Imam Sajjad says is that not only is your tongue elevated, it's a noble thing that we've been given, it's a noble responsibility we've been given. But he says that it is your responsibility as an individual, as the inhabitant of this body, is to guide it toward nobility, is to guide it toward politeness. Notice how he doesn't say, strictly say one thing, strictly do one thing. Because it's a process, right? You guide something toward a value, toward something that's abstract, right? If we truly want to become better at being good mu'mineen, mu'minat, if you truly want to become better as a cohesive unit in a cohesive community, the best way to do that is to slowly start phasing these types of topics out of our conversation. Because I can tell you it's damaging, right? If somebody finds out, for instance, right, and they don't feel welcome coming to the mosque anymore, they don't feel welcome coming to the Majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and they choose not to because of the environment that you have created with what you have said, then that's on you. Somebody is missing out on ibadah because of you. Somebody is missing out on mourning Imam Hussain because of you. And we can't have that. And that's a big responsibility to bear on the Day of Judgment. And the third thing is to really recognize the environment you're in. And I know, especially as a younger person, I'm telling a lot of people that are older than me things that they probably know already. Right? And it comes off a little bit strange, I'm sure. But the idea is you have to recognize the environment you're in. Even if you are younger, we know that the responsibility is still there, right? Not only is the person who does the ghibah, who says something bad about somebody behind their back, not only is that person have some sort of punishment waiting for them, but so does the person that's listening. Because again, you're propagating something, right? You're not harming just one person, you're spreading an idea throughout people. So giving an audience to that kind of behavior is also wrong in our religion, right? So the idea is we need to understand that there's a good way and a bad way to tell people what to say and what not to say. Right, we know that obviously if somebody's older than me and they come to me and they're saying something, rude about another individual, it would be wrong of me to say, oh no, you're sinning. We can't have that here. There's a right and wrong way to go about correcting people. There's a right and wrong way to go about changing the flow of conversation. It doesn't immediately have to be, oh hey, stop talking, I don't want to hear anything, you plug your ears and you walk away. Because that's disrespectful and you're creating, a disunity right there too, and we don't want that, because the whole point is to avoid this. So, we have these beautiful examples. The story of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain teaching the old man to do wuzu, right? And there's a kinder way to go about bringing these types of change. There's more subtle ways to go about changing conversation. Simply staying silent is a big deal too, because the worst thing you can do is enjoin evil, right? We want to be those who are leaders in our environment. We don't want to be those that are influenced by the evil that is around us. So that's something to keep in mind too, subtle changes in conversation, being the individuals that, say, oh hey, that's fine, but then change the conversation immediately. Or, gravitate toward the positivity of another person. Because our words have a major impact on who we are. We are remembered by our words. If you were to die tomorrow and become one of the inhabitants of this qabristan, would you want to be remembered as somebody who did, the injustice to others behind their back? Would you be okay with somebody talking poorly about your brother, your mother, your sister, your father, whatever the case might be? No. But we see that in our history there was a time where even the greatest individuals were talked about poorly after they had been slaughtered mercilessly. We see that when the caravan of Imam Hussain alayhi salam the ladies had their hijabs stolen, where Imam Sajjad had been shackled and chained, where they had been paraded through the streets of Kufa and Sham, they had arrived in the court of Yazid, and Yazid said, what a great thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me to do. Look at what he said. And we see the injustice that has been done to our Ahlul Bayt. Upon asking the Imam Sajjad, oh Imam, what was the worst part of this journey for you? The Imam would hit his head and he would say, Asham, Asham, Asham. This was a region where the enemy was very cunning. They took the exact regions where they knew there were no lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. They knew that there would be individuals that would see this army of captives being paraded through the streets, and they would throw fire, they would throw rocks, they would yell slander and slurs. They saw, the Imam would say that there was somebody that had thrown a piece of wood that was on fire, and my turban had caught fire, and because my hands were shackled, I was not able to reach my head to put out the fire. The Imam would say that the sons and daughters of Ali and Fatima, they were paraded through the streets. The women had no chadar on. The children were falling off the camels. And the entire time, these individuals that claimed to be followers of our family, they would laugh and they would cheer for them. There was a moment where this man had come up to the caravan. He said to Imam Sajjad, he said, look at what Yazid has done, look what Allah has done, He has humiliated you. And Imam Sajjad said, oh Shaykh, you are Muslim, are you not? And the man says, yes, I'm Muslim, I'm a follower of the Prophet. He said, yes, and I'm sure you have read the Quran, have you not? The man said, of course I read the Quran. Imam Sajjad said, go to this one ayat, there is this Ahlul Bayt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of that have been purified. Have you read this ayat, Shaykh? The Shaykh said, yes, of course I read this ayat. The Imam said, we are the Ahlul Bayt that has been purified by Allah. And we are the ones that are being paraded through the streets of Kufa and Sham like those taken as prisoners of war. This was not an easy journey by any means. There's very few moments in our history where the ghusl of a Ma'soom is turned into something very tragic. You know, we see in the whistle of Bibi Fatima, where Imam Ali faints when he sees the injuries that Bibi Fatima has sustained. Now, Imam Bakr, when he was doing the whistle of Imam Sajjad to bury him, Imam Bakr could not stand properly. He would fall down, he would faint, and he would say, "Oh, my poor father, what did he go through?" And the people would say, "Oh, Imam, what's the problem? What's going on?" And he would say, the injuries to his neck, the injuries to his arms, they had never healed. I didn't know. The shackles that they put around his neck had thorns in them. They would dig into his skin. The heat from the desert sun would burn these marks into his skin. And Imam Bakr could not bear to see what his father had been concealing his whole life. These wounds had never healed. And we see that Imam Sajjad would be attacked by Shimmer. And the children that were on top of these camels without saddles, they would fall every now and then. You know, we see that one rope was used to tie 12 people's throats, 12 women's throats, and they would be paraded through the streets. We see that this journey did not start just at Kufa, did not start just at Sham, but it started in Karbala. There was a night in which the tents were set on fire. There was a night in which the night had fallen, the darkness had fallen, and they knew that Abbas was not there, that Ali Akbar was not there, that Hussain was not there. They heard the enemies running toward the camp. They heard them saying, "Loot as much as you can. This is the camp of Ahlul Bayt, this is the camp of Muhammad, take as much as you can." The enemy would attack, they set fire to the tents, and you would see that the women would go from one tent to another, one tent to another. Someone said, "Where is Sajjad?" And you would look toward his tent, and you would see Zainab holding Sajjad on her back and walking out of the tent. They stole the mat from underneath Imam Sajjad. They set the fire to Bibi Sakina's clothes. We see that there are cries from one area of the tent, "Oh, Ali Akbar, where are you? Come help your mother." We hear cries from another area of the tent saying, "Oh, Qasim, where are you? Come help your mother." We hear cries from another area saying, "Oh, Abbas, where are you?" This was a night that is unlike any other. And the fires were extinguished. When calmness had finally somewhat set on this people, and the enemy had left, Bibi Zainab gathered all the ladies of the camp and gathered them under one tent that was relatively undamaged. She made sure to wash when everybody went to sleep. She saw that a rider was coming in the distance. She picked up a piece of the tent, of the pole of the broken tent, and she said, "Oh, rider, do not come any closer. We have nothing left to give you. Please, we've had such a hard day. Leave us alone." This man kept coming closer and closer. She said, "Do you not know who I am? I am the daughter of Ali. If you come closer, I will attack you." This man kept coming closer. He moved the covering away from his face, and he said, "Oh, Zainab, do you not recognize me?" It was Imam Ali. Imam Ali got off the horse and walked toward Bibi Zainab. Zainab said, "Oh, father, where were you when Qasim's body was being trampled? Oh, father, where were you when they killed Habib? Oh, father, where were you when they cut Abbas's arms and left him at the river? Oh, father, where were you when they killed Hussain and raised his head on a spear?" Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Mate Hussain.
Yeah, you go.
صدا گونج رہی ہے اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا میرے لیے اے لال تو اصغر کی طرح ہے گودی میری گہوارہ ہے بستر کی طرح ہے اس دھوپ میں دامن میرا چادر کی طرح ہے اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا میں ماں ہوں میرا دل نہیں سینے میں سنبھالتا نازک یہ بدن تیرا یہ جلتا ہوا صحرا اور اس میں ستم یہ نہ کہ تو رہ گیا پیاسا اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا میں گود میں لے لوں تجھے سینے سے لگا لوں سینے پہ سکینہ کی طرح تجھے کو سلا لوں سینے کے تیرے تیر میں پلکوں سے نکالوں اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا آ کر میرے زانوں پہ جو سو جاتے تھا بیٹا چکی کی مشقت کے بھی پہلو نہیں بدلا اب کیسے تجھے چھوڑ دوں مقتل میں اکیلا اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا تیری بھی تو اولاد ہے تو بھی تو قدر ہے اولاد کا غم کیا ہے تجھ کو بھی خبر ہے ہم بچے کسے جا یہ کس ماں کا جگر ہے اے میرے حسین میری گود میں آجا آجا میرے بچے میری آغوش میں آجا
Hussain, 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 Hussain,
میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین آپ کی کیا شان ہے مولا بولتا قرآن ہے مولا فاطمہ کی جان ہے مولا مرضی سبحان ہے مولا میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین کربلا کا فاتح اعظم با خدا ہے وارث آدم جا بجا پہلے تیرا پرچم تا ابد ہوگا تیرا ماتم میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین 3 دن کی تشنگی مولا ہائے تیری بے کسی مولا خشک گردن پر چھری مولا کربلا سہتی رہی مولا میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین کس طرح بھولیں گے وہ منظر جب چلاتا حلق پہ خنجر جب سنا کی نوک پہ تھا سر بولتا قرآن تیرے لب پر میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین یہ سبیلیں یہ عزاقانے آنکھ میں اشکوں کے پیمانے ماتمی لائے ہیں نذرانے اب جناب سیدہ جانے میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین یہ تیری مولا عزاداری زندگی سے بھی ہمیں پیاری ہے یہی تجھ سے وفاداری اشک آنکھوں سے رہے جاری میرے لہو کے ہر قطرے میں گونج رہا ہے یا حسین اب تو سب کا ورد زباں بھی رہنے لگا ہے یا حسین حسین
Hussain, 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 Hussain.
Sakiye Krishna Laba, ay alamdar haram, Hyder sher jawan, ay alamdar haram.
Sakiye Krishna Laba,
Ey alamdar haram,
Hyder sher jawan,
Ey alamdar haram,
marhaba sher jawan, ay ساقیے تشنہ لباں اے علمدار حرم حیدری شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم اے شہنشاہ وفا ثانی حیدر مولا اے سکینہ کی چچا فاطمہ زہرا کی دعا فوج شبیر کے سالار علمدار وفا بنی ہاشم کے قمر ناز شہ کربلا مولا قربان دل و جان اے علمدار حرم ساقیے تشنہ لباں اے علمدار حرم حیدری شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم ہائے وہ شام غریبا وہ قیامت کا سما ہائے سادات کے جلتے ہوئے خیموں کی دعا بیبیا کرتی تھی رو رو کے یہی آف ہوا عباس رداؤں کے محافظ ہو کہاں شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم ساقیے تشنہ لباں اے علمدار حرم حیدری شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم اپنا بی بی کو علمدار چچا یاد آیا آیا جب شام کا بازار چچا یاد آیا نہ ملا سائے دیوار چچا یاد آیا جب تماچے لگے ہر بار چچا یاد آیا تھی سکینہ کی فغاں اے علمدار حرم ساقیے تشنہ لباں اے علمدار حرم حیدری شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم ہم عزادار کی تقدیر جگا دو مولا کربلا کا ہمیں زوار بنا دو مولا اپنی جاگیر کا دیدار کرا دو مولا روزائے حضرت شبیر دکھا دو مولا ہے یہی ورد زمان اے علمدار حرم ساقیے تشنہ لباں اے علمدار حرم حیدری شیر جوان اے علمدار حرم
بیٹا حیدر ابھی ہے
جب شام کے زندان میں کوہرام وفا بین سے بالی سکینہ کے لرزتی ہے فضا سرد ہے سارا بدن زرد ہے غم سے چہرہ آہ کرتی ہے تو ہل جاتا ہے زندہ سارا خواب سے چونک کے اٹھ بیٹھی ہے روتی روتی اپنے سینے سے لگائے ہوئے بیٹھی ہے پھوپھی رو کے کہتی ہے کہ بابا میرے پاس آئے تھے پھوپھی اماں وہ میرے پاس یہاں بیٹھے تھے مجھ سے کہتے تھے میرا دل نہیں لگتا بیٹی آجا میری گود میں آجا بیٹی کب سے بے چین ہوں صورت تو دکھا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو کب سے چین ہوں
صورت تو دکھا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو
وہ یہیں ہوں گے کہیں آپ ذرا دے تو صدا وہ یہیں ہوں گے
آپ صدا دیں تو ذرا
کہیے ان سے میری جانب سے کہ بیٹی ہو فدا دور ہی سے ذرا آواز سنا دو مجھ کو
کب سے
چین ہوں
صورت تو دکھا دو
مجھ کو
پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو
بند آنکھیں ہوئی داری ہے میری دیکھیں ذرا بند آنکھیں ہوئی داری ہے میری
دیکھ ذرا
لوریاں دیتی ہے مجھ کو کوئی مانوس صدا نیند آتی ہے پھوپھی جان سلا دو مجھ کو کب سے چین ہوں
صورت تو دکھا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو
مانگیے اب نہ دعائیں اے میرے جینے کے لیے مانگیے اب نہ دعائیں
کے لیے
دیکھیے آ گئے بابا مجھے لینے کے لیے قبلہ رکے کہ پھوپھی جان مٹا دو مجھ کو کب سے بے چین ہوں
صورت تو دکھا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے
Hussain, Hussain,
Hussain, Hussain, Hussain.
Hussain, 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 Hussain.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's take this moment to recite dua sahat for all those who were in need. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وسائل الزيارة المحافظ الإمام صاحب العصر والزمان. On behalf of our marhumin and those in this qabristan, on behalf of those facing stress, qurbatan ila Allah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم. ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم.
برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانة، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي. لقد عظم مصابي بك. وأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها للحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليهم بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم والبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحربا لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثار مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقفا فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانة عمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. السلام عليكم جميعا من أئمة المولود الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليك علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليكم محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليكم موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك علي بن محمد بن الهادي. السلام عليك حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وزبورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائما وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكنه وردك طوى في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائما وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكنه وردك طوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب جا पंजतने पाक का सदका इस कौम का दामन गम शब्बीर से भर दे। बच्चों को अता कर अली असगर का तबस्सुम, बूढ़ों को हबीब इब्न मज़ाहिर की नजर दे। कम सिन को मिलाए वल वलाए और मोहम्मद ہر ایک دعا کا یہ برکت کر دے. ماں کو سکا ثانی زہرا کا سلیقہ, بہنوں کو سکینہ کی دعاؤں کا اثر دے. مولا تجھے زینب کی اسیری کی قسم ہے, بے جرم اسیروں کو رہائی کی خبر دے. جو چادر زینب کے زہر مولا محفوظ ہے اس خواتین کے پردے. جو دین کے کام اولاد عطا کر, جو مجلس شبیر کی خاطر ہو کر دے. مختلف فضل اللہ جواہر کی بارش مخروض کا ہر قرض ادا غیب سے کر دے. غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر, غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر. شبیر کا غم بانٹ رہا ہے تو ادھر دے. نعرے حیدری, دشمنان شبیر تیرے پیر بلا رہے.
Morning, your tabarruk is in bags on the side of the cars, behind the white car. Please pick up one bag for each person. And next weekend we will have the same timing for the Majalis, 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning on Saturday and Sunday.